For joining us bright and early here. Today, the state of Oregon launched its emergency relief check program. 4.5 weeks ago, the Legislative Emergency Board authorized $35 million to fund this program to get much needed financial assistance out to Oregonians who are hurting in the economic downturn that has resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a very unique public-private partnership that I think is the only one of its kind in the nation. When the Senate President and I jointly came up with the idea that we just need to get some cash into people's hands, particularly those folks who have been waiting in limbo for their unemployment benefits, this program was launched in our minds, and it took 4.5 weeks to bring it to the launch today. And I want to particularly thank Rob Stewart at On Point Community Credit Union and Court O'Haver, CEO of Umpqua Bank. They have been here with us since the beginning, and today we have 8 credit unions and 2 banks participating, and the Senate President will go into a little bit more detail of all the points of access. But the bottom line is Oregonians need help. This won't help everyone. It's not going to be enough for everybody, but we know that if people can get $500 in their hands over the next couple of days, they're going to be able to pay some of their bills, give themselves a little bit of breathing space. But we really need the federal government to step up. This is $35 million out of the coronavirus relief funds that the state had from the CARES Act. All of that money that's come to the state is more or less obligated at this point. We need the federal government to act and give us more assistance for Oregonians who can't pay their bills or worried about their rent payments. They need childcare to get covered. There's a lot of things going on in people's lives. We hope this project, this program today will really help Oregonians who need it. And in the first hour of the program, we already have 100 applications going out, people who have applied. We have 100 people who've already applied for the help, and the money will have this open as long as the money is available. So, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I feel a little bit like if you're watching athletics, we've evolved to the time. It used to be they talk to the coaches at halftime as they're running off the field or the court and say, how are you doing? What do you think? Now, during the game, they actually are interviewing you. I feel like this program has been underway since a little over an hour now. And so here we are talking as it's underway. And I was informed before I went on with you, right after the speaker and I talked earlier, that I think it was around 8:45, that 84 individuals had already been processed. They'd already applied. They'd already been processed. So as we speak, this is underway. And there's so many backstories. I think the speaker said it well. The legislature, since this terrible pandemic has hit us, going back to March, has been trying in every way possible to see, can we help? Can we help? Can we make things, let us help? And we watched the unemployment situation. Our offices received many, many calls. And this program, it just came out. I don't know why Tina and I, it's actually a Friday morning. It was crazy. We spontaneously thought, let's do something. And so this thing came about sort of that way. There's nothing academic. There's nothing, intellectual about it. It's just, we talked about the amount and we decided, let's go. And we thought we could do it in 2 weeks. We were off by 2.5 weeks. And because of the incredible work of Lisa in my office and Christina in the speaker's office. And also I want to say DAS and all the work that they have done, we've come up with this thing where we have contracts with 10 financial institutions: Central Willamette Credit Union, Clackamas Federal Credit Union, Columbia Bank, Inroads Credit Union, Old West Federal Credit Union, DuPont, Community Credit Union, Oregon Community Credit Union, Rogue Credit Union, Selco Community Credit Union, Umpqua Bank. Those 10 financial institutions we have contracted with, their willingness to do this, they want to do it, they are doing it through 150 branches, 100 throughout the state of Oregon, That in itself for me is mind-boggling, because this hasn't been tried before, and I don't really like to talk that way, but I love to say Oregonians love to be first or only. Well, guess what? Here we go again. And I really, I'm so pleased that we're on the field. We're not in the grandstands or in the stands. And so with that, I mean, because we have a limited amount of time here, we'll take your questions and comments. I'm different. Tina's more upbeat than I am, and I freely admit that. If you could have been a fly on the wall in some of our conversations, our personalities would have been revealed in a very interesting way. But we've also been blessed with this staff work. I mean, we elected officials, we stand up and say it's us. Truth of the matter is, none of us that are trying to do big things can do anything without great staff. And this is a perfect example of it. So I'm happy that we're here. I'm nervous. We're underway. And so I'll take your questions, comments, and criticisms for whatever you say. And Tina and I, we even dressed up for this. Just moments ago, Tina had to get off to put on her best clothes. I even wore a tie. I mean it. It's a way of respect for the media as well as how important I think this program is. So
absolutely,
we've even done that little thing here to show that this is very, very serious. And so let's go.
Well, if I could just add one thing, and I also want to thank the staff. There's been an incredible amount of work to do the level of legal work, operational work. Everyone, it's been all hands on deck for the last 4.5 weeks to get this program started. One of the things I just want to point out is, some people might say, well, why are people having to go to the branches? Early on we thought about, well, maybe people could just apply online because we're in a pandemic. We're balancing the need to make sure people who need the money are getting the money, make sure we don't have people in Nigeria applying for this money, through fraud. So people have to come in and show their ID. But the application itself is very straightforward, very simple. People should be able to get an appointment for some banks or walk in other branches, depends on the branch, and leave with $500. But I want to remind people that each branch is different. People have to respect the requirements of each site. We're in a pandemic. We need people to wear masks. We need people to respect the institutions and the staff who are working there, because many of these branches have added additional staff just for this program to make sure things can move quickly, that people aren't waiting in long lines. So remember, we're in a pandemic. People need to be thinking about that when they go to the branches. And respect the employees and the protocols in each branch. So with that, let's see if there's any questions.
All right, we'll start on the phone with Keaton from K2, and then Lindsay from Coin will follow after. And then again, if you have a question, just please note that in the chat box and you'll get into the queue. Keaton, are you there? All right, well, let's go to Lindsay in the meantime. We'll come back to Keaton.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, great. So you said 100 people have already applied and it's only been up for about an hour. Any idea how quick this might go?
I said 84. It was 8:45 when I got that word that 84 had applied and already had received the benefit. So I did not say 100. I said 84.
I said 100. That might have been the 9 o'clock mark.
Okay,
Around
well,
100. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. So 84. Apparently, we were at 100 literally as we speak. It's ongoing. So what was the other part of your saying, Liz?
So there's $35 million, Lindsay, $35 million was appropriated. The financial institutions are administratively doing this at no cost. And I want to point that out. They have stepped up as community partners to say, we will administer this on behalf of the state, and we want to thank them for that. So we estimated with $35 million at $500 a person, we could serve nearly 70,000 people. We don't know how long this will take. We have 150 locations. In many cases, you have to have an appointment to get into those branches. We do have protocols that when we start getting near the end of that $35 million cap, we will start notifying branches and we'll try to notify people. This will be a day-by-day type of check-in on where we are in terms of resources.
Yeah, we simply don't know, Lindsay. This is Peter. How long the 35 million will last. It will take a day at a time, but we have no way of knowing. We know this will go 2 weeks. We don't know anything like that. This is all new to us. We are getting activity as we speak, and I don't know. I just somehow I find that remarkable.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
And just a reminder, folks are not asking a question if they could go on mute just for sound quality. Keaton, I don't know if the audio issue is sorted out. Do you want to try again? Okay, we'll get that figured out. We'll next go to Claire at the Statesman Journal.
Hi there. I have a question about, you mentioned the staff time and the effort that's gone into developing this new program. Given all the problems with the employment department and those existing issues, why not devote your staff's time to trying to remedy those problems instead of building a new program on top of it?
Claire, that's a really good question. Every legislative staffer in every office has been continuing to work on unemployment benefits in terms of helping constituents understand the process, communicate with the department on their behalf to try to, get questions answered. None of that has stopped. My office is up over 1,000 cases that we are communicating with the department on. So none of that has stopped. And we have kept the employment department completely out of this conversation for the purpose of letting them focus on getting benefits processed and moved ahead. And they are making progress. In the meantime, we've devoted this complementary project through other resources working with DAS. The legislative branch itself has been helpful trying to figure out the information technology role that's needed here. We have a database now that will keep people from going from one bank to another bank to get a check. You get one check, we'll be able to monitor that. So there's been a lot of team effort, and we're keeping the employment department away from this so they can focus on unemployment. But believe me, everyone is still trying to help people get their unemployment benefits.
Well, in ordinary time, not to take a phrase that's biblical, you probably would do that. But this is not ordinary time. This program is not to in any way be negative towards the employment department. We played a role in adding hundreds of employees in the employment department. We passed bills just recently involving the employment department. So we're doing what we've been asked to do, or as much as what they were asking us to do. Now, we had a struggle with one bill that didn't make it, but we are literally doing those kinds of things where the employment department comes to us and asks us to help. But we just had reached the conclusion that given the magnitude of the demand, it was overwhelming us. It was the tidal wave. It was overwhelming us. And so we also, when you get some of the stories that we could tell you about people when they call into our offices, it just breaks your heart. So we moved. We did it. And this is no attempt to scuttle or second guess the employment department at all. But we're in emergency times, and emergency times requires action now. And that's a big department. This program, it's the private sector, the public sector, and what better partnership when you got a crisis in your hand? If those sectors are working together, they can do anything, I believe. They can solve any problems and do anything. So this is not meant to be negative about the employment department. This is not meant to say this, that, and the other thing. We wanted to move boldly. We chose to do it this way. We still are willing to, through legislation or whatever chance to help the employment department. But the $600 thing just ran out in the federal government. So we didn't even plan it that way. But here we are coming in right in with $500. It's not $600. So I'm not sure that answers your question satisfactorily, but it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Well, and I want to follow up with that on the $600. I'm glad the Senate president raised that. 4.5 weeks ago, when we approved the money for this program, people were still getting the $600 a week in additional federal unemployment benefits, people who were getting their benefits. Well, that has gone away. The federal government has faltered. There's no additional dollars on top of the regular unemployment coming through. More people are getting pandemic unemployment assistance, but we still have a huge backlog. So everything has to help, and that's what the purpose of this program is.
All right, let's go one more time. Keaton.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. So I know that it's never a quick process to try and implement a new program, but for the people out there who are looking forward to this, can you give us an idea of, why did it take 4 weeks, and was it possible to do this quicker?
Well, Tina, why don't you be diplomatic and handle that question, because I probably won't be diplomatic. So go ahead.
Well, if we recall, when the emergency board approved the money, we were being told it would take 6 to 8 weeks. So 4.5 weeks in creating an entirely new program is light speed. Maybe we could have shaved another week off if, we had figured out some things quicker, but you're talking about unique contracts, trying to find enough access points. We had one bank, when we realized we didn't have some locations in certain parts of the state, we had to find an additional financial partner. And I want to give a kudo to Columbia Bank, who figured out how to come in late in 5 days, signed contracts, and had their branches operating today. So we wanted to make sure we were ready to start, that all parts of the state were covered, that it was going to be simple, that it was going to be straightforward, that it was going to work. What we didn't want to do was start something too soon, have it crash and not work. Because too many people have been stuck in bureaucracy right now, whether it's unemployment benefits or some other types of programs to get assistance. We wanted to make this sure it worked on day one. So waiting a few more days was worth it to make sure it was going to be right when it started.
Well, if we'd have done it in a day, we'd have been too quick, and we wouldn't have done it publicly, and we would have been guilty. I can tell you, when you're dealing with 150 branches of 10 major financials in the state of Oregon, and they're going, whoa, okay, we'll help because they know Oregon is suffering. The contract itself is that thing went back and forth, Department of Justice, as well it should. People were working on this through weekends. They're working on this. And I got to tell you, yeah, Tina and I thought we could do it in a week. I mean, when we introduced this thing in e-board, we didn't even get a chance to talk about it. People exploded on the e-board and said, do it. We want to do it. Democrat, just do it. So we had that attitude. We're just going to go out and do it. Well, guess what? You got to do a few things before you just do it. And it took us 4.5 weeks. I'm not going to apologize for that. Sure, we'd like to have done it sooner, but if we had, I have a feeling, I don't know. So you can write it up any way you want to. I'll take 4.5 weeks when you're in the crisis that we're in, and you're dealing with something you've never done before. We have no playbook. We have no map. So that's my response.
All right, we've got a question from Dick Hughes in the chat box. Will there be real-time updates of how many people have applied and how much money has been dispensed, such as on a daily or more frequent basis?
Yes. Because of the arrangements that we've made with the financial institutions, we will have daily reporting. We will know where we stand in terms of money that has gone out the door, how many people have been served. Yes. We won't, it's type of an ended, think of it as reconciling your books every, at the end of every day. So will we be able to publicly report that? I don't know, but we will know internally where we are, and every institution will know, because at some point we will have to turn off the program, and we want to be able to anticipate that.
Every morning we had an 8:30 call for the longest weeks now, right after the special session. 8:30 call to go over with all what we were trying to do. That was a check-in. And now I have a feeling that Tina and myself, we will privately be checking in several times a day, because it's like this is our child. How's the child doing? And I don't mean to be disrespectful of that. So yeah, we're going to be checking in. There's a structural check-in, but there's also a personal interest, people's checking in going on. I'm trying to text my staff right now and say, can you give me a number right now? I mean, that's how gung-ho I am, and also tense than I am.
All right, let's go to Jacob Roberts next.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a question for the speaker. You mentioned that people can make an appointment and walk in and leave with $500. Do you expect everyone will be able to get their hands on that money that quickly, assuming they're approved?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So again, each branch is different. So we encourage people to go to the website, emergencychecks.gov. I forget what the actual emergencychecks.oregon.gov, or call 211. It's better if you fill out the application if you can ahead of time. But in most cases, we have branches making appointments, so you'll come in, or some of them will take walk-ins. When the application is filled out and the identification procedures are met, people will be given the option of direct deposit, a check, or one of those debit cards where the money can be put onto. People will walk out the door after they've had the appointment or they filled out the application and been approved. They will leave that day with the money.
I thought, Tina, Christina, Lisa, watch this one. Somewhere in our phone calls, we thought we could average 8 minutes per person. I don't know where that went, but we said something like that. I'm not going to say that we guarantee that. But as Tina has pointed out, very great. It's interesting. Some are going to ask for, you can walk in as we speak. Others, you need an appointment. So that's why when you contact, and that's their call. We didn't dictate that. That's the private sectors, the community, credit unions, the banks. That's their call because they've hired extra people to do this. They're going out of their way to do this. Some want to do it by appointment, as the speaker said, and some want to do it by just walking. It's a very dynamic.
Remember, some of these branches haven't even been open. They've been only doing appointments since the beginning of the pandemic. So it really does depend on each branch and each community.
Okay, I think hopefully everyone who's wanted to ask a question has gotten to do so. We've got another one from Dick Hughes.
Thank you very much for doing this. I'm interested more in the story of how this came about. Can you walk us through the discussions, who came up with this idea, how it was bounced back and forth, and a little bit of this idea and the $500 and just the story behind this plan? Thank you.
Why don't you start, Tina? This is the question we talked about an hour ago.
So if you can remember Dick, if you can remember the July e-board where we approved this, I believe it was the Friday before that e-board when we had heard once again the desperation from legislators and their staff who had been fielding all of these requests around unemployment benefits, and things were still kind of in a stuck mode over at the employment department. We just looked at each other and said, we have an e-board next week. We've got to get people some money. And I think we both thought of it separately, and then we both texted the staff. We texted each other and said, we need to do something. Now, what I will say is the Senate president actually wanted a bigger number than $500. I went with 500 because I went with how many more can we serve? And that's where we ended up. I think he wanted 1,500. But regardless, the same idea of getting cash, that's what people need right now. They don't need a runaround. They don't need excuses. They need cash to pay their bills. And that's where, and Peter, that's my recollection of where we started.
Well, this has never happened before, and I know you're not going to believe it. We've had a lot of meetings in the last several months, the speaker and I, about a lot of things where I'm not going to write a treatise on it, but and so this issue of people unemployed, not having a job, it just, I don't know. And somehow other, I remember I said to Anna Braun, my chief of staff, you know what? Let's just do something and fool around. Anna Braun herself had said to me months before, why don't you just give them money? And I said, what? Anyway, well, all of a sudden, that was a Friday morning, and then I get a text back from Anna saying, no, call me. You know what? The speaker's going to do it. They wanted to do it together. We're going to issue a press release. Because we knew if we listed a press release, in my opinion, we were boxed in. We had to produce. And then we were making it up, and we had an e-board, and literally that's how it happened. We just, the two chiefs of staff started to work. Then we brought in Lisa and Christina, and it was as simple as that. What number we chose, how many people, like 70,000, 35 million, all that was okay. We just did it. And I can't explain it any other way. There's nothing more profound. There's nothing more secret. There's nothing clandestine. It's just somehow Tina and Peter, who don't even see each other hardly. We didn't even see each other in special session this time. We just came up with this thing. And the details seem unimportant because we said we're going to do it. And we weren't even going to wait for, we did it in e-board, that very nice e-board. And you want to tell you something, you can look at the paperwork we presented to the e-board. I'm just going to say it now, given that e-board, I'm surprised they didn't really attack us by how incomplete it was. Instead, they started cheering almost. Literally, yes, do it. So that's it, Dick. Nothing more profound than that. If you want a more sexy story, I don't have it, but it's absolutely true.
And I think we came up with the 70,000 because around that time, I believe we still had about a 60,000 person backlog. in employment. Now that has improved in the last 4.5 weeks, and more people have gotten their full benefits, and they will get the retroactive benefits. But there are still people waiting in adjudication. Just to give you an update, as of 9:25 this morning, we now have 240 people processed in the program.
Also, I think, I said this to the speaker, I think when you're in a crisis situation, you have to act in ways you wouldn't ordinarily act, and you think in ways you wouldn't. If you don't, the world's turned upside down, and you have to turn yourself upside down. In some ways, the speaker and I have been doing that. We've been attacked for that. And so it's not surprising we would come up with this thing at all. We're not trying to be show-offs. We're not trying to say, see, we did something nobody else did. We are just desperately trying to respond to people who are flooding our offices. There's crying, there's tears, they're broken down. They're going to get, I mean, they have no money, they have no jobs, and they're good people. They're all good people. They're all hardworking. And what are you going to do as elected officials? Say, well, but the grace of God go I. You're not going to do that. Nobody's going to do that if you're like, you're going to try to do what you can do. So this was born from that crisis situation.
All right, we're nearing 9:30, so we have time for one more question, and we'll go back to Lindsay at Coin.
Thank you. I just, real quick wanted to know, I know a lot of people really need this and they're really excited about it, but is there any sense of frustration that you even have to do this? I mean, the $600 federal benefit, there's nothing to replace it. And then the backlog with the unemployment department is kind of the reason this came about. And now moving forward, how do we better prepare if this, continues? Is there any sense of frustration that we even need a program like this?
I'm always frustrated that our safety net programs, the programs that normally work in average times, it's been very hard to serve people. But I can't spend a lot of time being frustrated. We have to solve problems for people. We have to say, okay, this isn't working. We can dwell on that, or we can build something new. We have built something new that through a public-private partnership, and I have to stress that. If this was just the state, if it was just the usual partners, I don't know if we could have done this. Our financial institutions know what's happening out there, and they can cut checks. They know how to do this. And for us to be able to get them the money to get to people in 4.5 weeks is what we need to be doing every day in this state and around the country in this pandemic to make sure people are getting helped. We have to get creative and not worry about what's not working and just make something work, which is what we've done.
I think the speaker in one of her sentences said it. I remember years ago, my brother was doing very well in WotC at Dartmouth, and they were very impressed. The military lifers were with him, and they said the reason is he had a second lieutenant, become a captain. He said they were very impressed with him. They told my father because no matter what cards were dealt him or what facts were given him, he made the best of it. And I've always been taken by that. And this is a perfect example where the speaker and I, we don't have time, and I mean it, to point fingers or to blame or get frustrated, because this program took so much energy and focus. Plus, don't forget, we were preparing for special sessions. We were preparing for e-boards. We couldn't just give up on everything else. That I really, I'm almost oblivious to what's going on outside of this. My job is to do the best I can with what's been given to me, better or worse. And Tina, and I think it seems to me she said the same thing. And so that's that. I'm not, I'll let other people write articles or do opinions on that. This program, when you're flying a plane that you've never flown in before, and there's no could you get the playbook? How do we land? And I've used many illustrations. I don't have time to worry about anything except the program in front of me. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a better answer or an answer that you probably would like where I'm blaming. I'm oblivious anymore to blaming. I'm just oblivious to it.
All right. Well, Senate President Courtney, Speaker Kotek, thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here this morning.
There's no more questions you have, the speaker and I, on this program. We even gave you updates. When have you had a press availability or conference when literally you're being updated as the game's being played? I don't understand that you wouldn't have more questions for us. I don't understand that.
Well, and let's see how it goes. If there are more questions or things, we will give updates as regularly as we can. And if you have additional questions, Danny can follow up. I would ask that, to the degree that you can let people know about the details of the program, please do so. We appreciate that. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you very
Appreciate
much.
it.